So we're in the midst of quarantine season, fellow kids and interested adults, and you want to get into PC gaming. Whether Twitch spiked your interest or just the lack of other activities, because you've done your schoolwork, your Zoom meetings, and then you're working out either indoors or like short runs or something on your property, estate, complex, wherever you find yourself situated. And now you want to get into PC gaming. So I'll showcase a few games, and these are clips of my footage, my gameplay. First one up is going to be Business Tour. Very similar to Monopoly, it's free on Steam. And then the ideal thing to do with it is download Discord, a communications app, and have all your friends on it, and then you can play as if you're all in the same room. I would definitely vouch for that experience myself because I've done it multiple times and it's great. Other board games are also found on Steam, like Risk, but you can also find more like party games for home, like Jackbox Party Pack, where you're either cracking jokes or um, lying about your past thing or making up fake rap lyrics. It's all very fun. They're also found on Steam. And then if you're not as much of a social uh, kid in that aspect, there's also shooters and all sorts of role-playing games for you. I don't have much role-playing footage because there's not much to show other than the graphics. And I'm on a laptop, so they're good, but not uh crazy. So I'm gonna show now footage of my Rainbow Six Siege gameplay. It's a notable shooter. It's staying strong in its third, fourth year, constant updates and esports aspect to it. Other notable ones include you've probably heard this name a bunch of times. Fortnite, that's a battle royale. Warzone's a battle royale with Modern Warfare as a um, the main core of that game. And then you've got other ones coming out like Valorant. It's supposed to be CS:GO but with Overwatch style characters. I don't have the footage of my gameplay because I don't own those games, but you'll probably find it instantly within like 2 clicks. I just wanted to reference them so you can look up those on your own time. Um, then you've got 8-bit retro games. I wouldn't say Terraria is a retro, but it's indie, but it's definitely retro style. It's very enjoyable. Most people parallel it to 3D Minecraft with the fact that there's a lot of building to it for enjoyment and hostile mobs, but it definitely is more of a grind aspect to it for higher tier weapons and dynamic bosses. I find that an interesting game that everyone would enjoy. Then you've got games like Cuphead, which are clearly retro, and this one's designed to look like the 1930s cartoons with like incredible jazz music. That's also a great one. But let's see. I'll go into like what actual components you need
Yeah, that's
and
right.
what
Watch the kill
games
cam,
dictate
baby.
what specs.
Op
But
4,
I'll just
last
like to
operator
recommend the
standing.
first three apps when you like get
Bomb has
your
been located.
PC once you update the BIOS or once you open your laptop would be Steam
Down to
because
one
that's
friendly.
basically where you get all your games. A lot of different developers have their own launchers, but Steam and Epic Games Launcher are probably the most prolific. Epic Games Launcher,
Op 4
although
eliminated.
Fortnite is
Friendly
its main
mission
title, it has a
successful.
lot of free games that it puts
Good
out
shit, my
on
friend. Good
a
shit.
weekly basis that are normally paid for. So those are always a plus. And then after mainly that one, you've got Discord and Chrome. Those two, because Edge, although it comes with your Windows laptop or Windows OS, it isn't ideal. Chrome's faster, safer. And Discord, since it's a communications app where you can both text your friends, join servers of like-minded people, voice call them, and share your webcam. It could be an alternative to Zoom, but it's more only for people who are more in tune with technology. So now I'm going to get into the actual my PowerPoint I made just so it's easier to streamline my thoughts. But hopefully you'll understand it and find a clear path for how to plan your foray into PC gaming.
Op 4, last stop standing. Op
So,
You've decided you want to get a PC? Well, let's see what PC you really want to get. So the first real question to ask yourself is what type of games do you want to play, because that dictates what you're going to do next. So indie and older games, they have a low graphics requirement, and to showcase this, we have the picture of Stardew Valley, a popular indie game, retro game, very popular across all age groups. And some games can fall into this technological category without being in this genre, if you get what I'm saying. Because games like Fortnite, older games like CS:GO, or newer games uh, targeted towards older specs like Valorant are coming out, and those can be played on lower spec PCs. So those are always fun to play. Um, and then for AAA games and new titles, that's what dictates a technological upgrade, because those require faster RAM, better graphics card and CPU to handle the strain of rendering that at like 144 frames or better. Um, and to showcase that, we have Call of Duty Warzone, a new game that came out for free by Activision. And so the full game is at around 250 gigabytes, which is a lot, if you're using an SSD. So that's something to keep in mind. And so popular shooters, these are I organized this from bottom to top in terms of graphical requirements, with BioShock probably being the lowest out of all of them since it's the oldest game here. It's a very popular RPG about exploring, I think, an underworld world. um, then CS:GO Valorant would be tied for bottom. CS:GO is a fun game. I don't know how to describe it really. You plant a bomb, you defuse it, and it's slightly different than games like Siege, which do have a similar game layout, but they're more emphasis on destruction and operators, like Overwatch, ability-based gameplay. And then so we've got The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is also a bit more strenuous graphically, because although it was released in 2015, they're Ultra HD retextures that make it look like a AAA game to this day. And then at the top we've got Warzone and all of the other flashy new games that came out. Because those you play on Ultra with 144 frames or better, you're gonna need probably a GTX 1080 or an RTX 2060 or better. I'll get into those actual terms later on in the video. Oh, sorry, clicked early. But so here we've got all the indie and retro games. We've got, or not all of them, but a representation of some of the different subgenres. We've got Terraria and Stardew representing 8-bit. Dead Cells is a Metroidvania, very critically acclaimed. Enter the Gungeon. I've had personal experience with Terraria. I'm more an FPS guy myself, but these are all very enjoyable games, and I might do reviews or something like that later. But these are if you're already interested in and wondering on what actual hardware you need to get invested in the gaming. So here is the actual pictures of the layouts you'd be using. So there are four real options: desktop with pre-built, desktop self-build, laptop like primarily office and gaming laptop. So the first one, that's probably the least viable, is a pre-built desktop, because although you save like maybe 4 or 5 hours in building the desktop yourself, it's more expensive. Some of the components will be underspecced or not to the same standard as the other components. Like if you have really nice graphics cards, really nice RAM, really nice SSD, a nice case, motherboard, and all of that, and you have like a 2006 Lake SSD, Lake CPU. Sorry for the mix-up of terms. That it's just not going to hold up. So that's why people normally go for self-build, because there's a lot more variability. You can cash in on numerous deals without having to commit to one type of PC, because you can upgrade it and you can take out what's not working. And so for both of these, they're both the NZXT H510 series. This one's an H510. I think the other one's an I or Elite. And one just comes with integrated fans and cooling. And these are normally the most affordable and just the vanilla one for all cases. And they look nice, so there's nothing wrong with that. And then for inside the box, you normally want to get an RTX 2060 6GB or a RTX 2070 8 GB Super, just because they perform very well today, and they'll support 1080p like ultra settings, 144 hertz, and then they have active ray tracing, so they'll be able to play a lot of games in the future. RTX 2060 is the lower one, um, both numbers and in performance and in price. Um, RTX 2070 will run even wider screens that have more pixels to do, and it also does 4K. Pretty sure not as well as the RTX 2080 Ti, but that's $1,000 graphics card. So these are just entry ones and good ones to get started with. If you're serious about getting high specs and stuff, I mean frames and all the rest. But then for the motherboards now, you would want an Aorus Ultra if you're going to go with Intel, and an MSI MPG for Ryzen, if I'm remembering correctly. Difference is Intel it's normally held in higher esteem, but Ryzen is now heard to have more bang for your buck. So it really depends on what you want to do. And then to go with the Intel motherboard, you get an Intel i7 or better. And then for the Ryzen, you'd get that motherboard, and then I think an RX 3700X or better. And the cool thing about the Ryzen ones is that they come with an integrated cooler, like on the CPU, not the entire fans for the entire PC, but it's still an additional perk. And then for RAM, there's just like a average that you should hit above for megahertz. I don't have any specific ones because I got a nice laptop with good enough specs for me. I'm not the most informed on that. If you want to look more into that, just look at PC Gamer. They have hardware reviews on everything. And then for SSD versus SATA HDD, is that one is for solid state drive, meaning that it's less storage, higher price, faster loading times and download times, while the other one is lower price, more storage, lower download speeds, and load-in times. And normally what people do, so that they have a bit of both, is they'll have a 256 gigabyte or 500 gigabyte SSD to play the games they play frequently and shooters, but you don't want to wait 10 seconds to get loaded into a match. And then have the hard drive at HDD or SATA for RPG games where there's no rush and things like that, and just general files. And then power supply for the thing. You can get 650 watts, 750 watts, but 850 watts is basically future proof because the fact that it can run high performance graphics card, CPU, and everything without burning up and then staying consistent over the years. I think the Corsair one is the one I added in the description. It's useful and it will stay with you for a while. And then for laptops, if you want a bit more mobility, but it's still a brick to carry around. I heard both of these had increases in battery life because mine it'll only last like 2 hours on battery life, and you can't use it for gaming when it's like that. But so on the top left, that's an Acer Nitro 5. It's the cheaper one. I think it starts at 600, and it's good if you want to do retro games if you don't have a computer yet or an office computer capable. And then I think it has a $1,000 version, whereas the GTX 1066 gigabyte, which that will be able to play most new games at medium settings at I think 120 frames or better. The laptop I'm more informed about is the one on the bottom right. This is the one I'm using right now to record this video. It is a GTX 1066 gigabyte with a nice, I think, Intel i7 laptop edition, so it's less performance, but to fit it in the chassis with a 256 gigabyte SSD and such, and it has a 144 hertz monitor, which is really nice for laptops because normally you don't want to get a monitor for a laptop itself. That would be kind of pointless. So it has it already there. And then in their new 2020 Q1, they released a new version of this, which is really nice. I think it's 1,200 right now. It'll probably go down as it replaces my gen version, but it's a GTX 1660 Ti 6 gigabyte. So I think that can run all new games on high or ultra settings at 144 frames. So that's really impressive. So I think I gave you really four options. You know, you've got this laptop, or actually let's count. So this laptop last gen 1, this laptop new gen 2, Acer Nitro 5. I'll just do the low spec one because that's what I've heard the best things about. 3. You've got this um, Intel, or this one has a variety of choices you have to think about. You've got the Intel AMD, and then you've got which of the two graphics cards. So I'll discard that. But you've got four main choices really. And then going back to games, I might go into more into depth in a later video, but I think the clips in the beginning of the video will have spiked your interest, and I think this video is informative enough for you guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll be posting later stuff on a plethora of other topics. Hope you enjoyed.